Hello, thank you for joining us today. This is going to be a slightly different presentation because it is about sound, but also how sound connects with other technologies and how important it is on the storytelling and on the journey of audiences. So I'm going to start with just a basic introduction of who I am, who am I, what L-Acoustics is all about, and then I'm going to moderate and let Brad actually talk about two interesting projects that happened recently and how he approached these projects when it came to sound and also multimedia. So I'm going to start with L-Acoustics as a company. We're a French company who has now 1,400 employees, has grown quite a bit. We focus on premium sound solutions. We have manufacturing in France and offices in Singapore. We're opening a headquarters in Nashville, and previously we had our headquarters for the US in Los Angeles. I'm based in Los Angeles. I joined L-Acoustics about a year and a half ago. I do business development for theater, performing arts centers, and also concert venues. I come from a background, I'm very passionate about combining different technologies and platforms. I come actually originally from sound design for video games and 3D audio. Like I worked with a company called Havoc and Sensora in the year 2000. That was a while ago. Then I joined Dolby Labs to do more HRTF and binaural sound. So I'm very, even though I focus a lot on performing arts centers and theater, I'm very future forward looking on how new technologies can be adapted into different markets and different verticals. If we, I'm just gonna pass on this. One of the technologies that we're gonna focus on, and Brad is gonna talk about it too, is a technology called ELISA. ELISA is not the only object-based immersive sound technology out there, but it's one of the options that you as designers or you as operator or actually as end users can utilize to approach a space and actually make it be much more efficient or much more engaging than having a stereo sound system like we have today. For example, we have a stereo sound system. So ELISA was born about 10 years ago through the R&D department of L-Acoustics with a huge influence from other technologies that were back in the day, from quad to 5.1 to 7.1. ELISA, we could almost say it's an evolution of all these surround technologies over the years. One of the benefits of ELISA is the ability to pinpoint and localize actors and localize sources much more effectively, which gives you a lot less fatigue in your hearing and in your experience when you're either being entertained or trying to perceive a message properly. So it gives you an absolute perfect localization of the sources. It also interferes less because you have more elements that are reproducing the sound. So for a lot of people who design using ELISA or a comparable solution, you have a canvas that's a lot bigger where sounds are not interfering with one another. So you as an audience member can actually identify different sounds much more effectively. And in a sweet spot when we talk about stereo, instead of two speakers actually creating a stereo image in the middle of the room, you have the ability of creating this sweet spot that's much more expanded throughout the seating or the standing audience. This is just a graph of how, for example, a fully immersive sound system of ELISA would look, where you can actually put more speakers throughout the venue. Local example, which just opened up, is Radio City Music Hall. Which the new system for the Christmas Spectacular has a full immersive sound system, and it includes all these loudspeakers, which are L-Acoustics on the under balcony and the surrounds. So just to finalize a little bit on the approach of ELISA, as a company and other companies also in the professional audio industry, we're trying to fine-tune how we control the source, the system, and the space, So we are taking care of talking to people that are creatives and creating the content to make sure they have the tools to be able to fine-tune the content that they want to deliver. Then we have a system which could be amplifiers, electronics, and loudspeakers. And then we have, we're approaching the space. For example, we have a technology called ambience that allows you to resize the room with microphones and speakers. So those are the three elements that we're focusing as a company, and I think many other companies in the market is source, system, and space. Brad is going to talk a little bit more about this, but I welcome you if you or your sound design team wants to explore in using object-based or immersive audio. There's auditoriums from our company and from other companies around the world where you can actually do some sort of previs. And Brad is going to expand a little bit more, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. So another technology that we're approaching is called HiRIS, which is Hyper-Real Immersive Sound System. And that one is designed to create spaces that could be corporate and also residential, and the ability to reconfigure these spaces with a push of a button. So you can turn it from having a piano player or a violin player in the room and actually make it sound like a concert hall to actually turn it into a cinema room. So this has been adopted quite a bit in high-end residential, but also in corporate rooms as well. So I just wanted to give you these technologies and for you to keep them in mind. And what I wanted to focus, because I know the crowd of Framework is quite into interoperability and also being able to mix technologies, I just wanted to communicate that Elisa in our entire ecosystem is compatible with things like OSC and Desk Link, so you can actually connect to platforms like DMX as well, or platforms that are digital mixing consoles. We work a lot with QLab. Brad is going to talk a little bit about that. And we have plugins for many different platforms like Resolume, MaxMSP. We do talk to Unreal, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that with Unreal Link and also through Audiokinetic Wise. So you can actually create objects in Unreal and send them into Elisa and vice versa. And these are some of the control plugins. Lost the microphone. Control plugins we have on some of the digital audio workstations that are out there. So we're compatible with all of these platforms. Another interesting thing, and I'm losing microphone again. Let me see. Check 1, 2. Check. The other thing is that you can connect all these audio objects from the Elisa platform into tracking systems. So you can have technologies like Black Tracks or any of the other similar technologies for track the objects within Elisa and communicate back and forth through their API. OSC has been a standard from day one, so you can actually use Touch OSC or use OSC to interconnect between Elisa and other platforms that are not audio related or audio related. And it goes through Elisa OSC API or the ADM OSC API to objects. Just to recap a little bit, Resolume, Reaper, Touch OSC, QLab are some of the examples that are OSC compatible. And on the native API, we have QLab and Modulo Pi as well. So, and Brad is going to expand much more on this, not using Unreal, but this is a very similar approach. Through the Unreal Engine and through Unreal Link, you can create a connection between Elisa and run Elisa at the same time as Unreal, and the objects will actually, defining the perimeter of the Elisa environment, you can actually match it to the Unreal world that you're navigating in. So I think with that, I'm going to switch to, pure data is another way to also communicate with Elisa, but I think I'm going to do some sort of moderating with Brad, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself first.
Hello. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm not used to being on this side of the microphone, so you'll have to bear with me. But I wanted to talk about sight, sound, and story, the art of multisensory performance. I just love that title. I think it's so cool, and I was so excited. Thanks for inviting me here to talk about it. I'm a sound designer and an audiovisual consultant living and working here in New York, but I work all around the world designing sound and designing venues, performance spaces, anything to do with audio video, experiential environments, whatever, anything live performance related. I'm also head of sound for OISTAT, the International Organization for Theater Architects, Scenographers, and Technicians. And it's just an honor to be here. And I love that title. It's just as it implies, just as theater ought to be a collaboration amongst the entire creative team to present a unified production or story. I think theater exists to take people places they can go in no other way and to give them experiences they have never had or may not want to have, immersing them with a new idea, a new concept, or a new feeling. So I think, you know, it's spot on. I'm just so excited to learn about this conference and to be here. The best example I could think about is this project that I just finished in the desert out near Dubai. And it's called Transcendent Renaissance. It was an immersive exploration of time and memory through sound performance and design, focusing on sound. It blended multi-track choral recordings, music, sounds, with other design elements and live performers to create a unified multi-sensory experience for the audience. And like Miguel mentioned, elevating the listener experience and storytelling with immersive sound are the things that I have always wanted to do, I aim to do in all my work, and that's why I contacted my friends at L-Acoustics to ask them if they could help me with this project that I was commissioned to design over there. And they were just amazing. All along the way, the whole team was just amazing to work with me. Their tools were just wonderful. And I also, when I choose tools, I choose things that I want to learn about too. I'd put it in several systems, but I'd never actually used it for a show that I designed. So it was really cool to get to do that. So let me play you a little clip of the show, and then we'll dig into it. And Miguel, feel free to ask me questions along the way. So like I said, this was out in the desert. Sharjah was the Emirates, just outside Dubai, and it was the Malaya Center. It's a museum and park developed around a 4,500-year-old burial site, and behind that wall is this 4,500-year-old, the relics and ruins of this burial site. You can kind of see it there inside that wall. So if you take the space, the site was just perfect because our performance was intended to connect participants to both their past and to the future. So it really worked very well. But if you look at the site, going across in plan view, we used this whole circular area around the burial site as our playing area, and it's 40 meters across, so it was huge. And then this part here was 2.5 meters tall, and then there was about 8 meter tall wall to the museum. It was a curved wall that we used as a backdrop at times, and we used it as a projection surface. So it turned out really, really well. I was really pleased.
Actually, regarding timeline, when did you get involved with the project? How much time did you have to approach it sonically? Was it a very rapid project, or did you have?
We actually had some time. I mean, usually these things come up at the last minute, but we had some time on this one. Especially when designing for a show, 6 months is kind of a long time. If it's a system design for a new building or whatever, 5 years might be a timeline. So it's never too soon to call. So if you're ever needing a consultant or a designer, call today. The longer you wait, the more it costs to change things. I always like to tell people. So the sooner the better. But this one, we did have 6 months or so to develop it, and we did it a little bit here and there, but things still get put off to the last minute, and we didn't have our system approved until about 3 weeks before the show. I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to have all these speakers I'm about to show you. So, but we ended up getting them, so it was fine. I didn't have to redesign. But yeah, so as you can see in this slide, the audience is interspersed with the performer, so it was a completely immersive experience. So the sound, the lights, the video, everything just engulfed the audience. And I want to talk a little bit about the design. And for my design, I did the modeling in Sound Vision, which is a product that L-Acoustics makes, and it is their prediction engine. It is their controller for the amplifiers. It's kind of the brains of the whole system, in a way. Would you say, Miguel?
Yeah, totally. Sound Vision, as many tools out there, is our prediction software. And what it allows you to do is actually have a very precise simulation of how SPL mapping, sound pressure level, is going to look like and feel like in the venue. When would you say you did this before the show? Like 2 months before, or?
I actually did this as soon as I heard about it.
Okay, got it.
As soon as we got the site identified, I was just like, I got to throw something together to pitch an idea so we could set a budget and blah, blah, blah. So I started, and the design changed very little from that point, which could be good, could be bad, but there was nobody saying no, so which is very unusual.
Got it. Okay.
So that's where we started. I put the speakers there after we modeled the space, and I use Revit is what I use for modeling, but I did the 3D modeling. Actually, there was no blueprints of this space, so I did it from Google Earth to get the measurements, and I was within a meter on most of the measurements, so it turned out pretty good. But what I ended up doing was an inner ring of 20 speakers, and that was the L-Acoustics X8, and an outer ring of 20 speakers, which was L-Acoustics X12. Up here was that viewing platform where people visiting the museum could look down and see the relics down in here. We used it as a presentation area. And then we had, on the light towers, there was 4 light towers, we had speakers on top of each one of those, and those were X12s as well. And then we had 8 subs, and they were the L-Acoustics SB28 subs. So that's that. From that point, after we got that built and settled on, we brought it into Elisa, which Miguel's been talking about, and that is the engine that does the processing and the controlling of the sounds. So you can see here, like the speakers one-to-one move from there into the Elisa controller. So I've got my 20 outer, my 20 inner, and over here is a source list. So every sound source that I had 64 tracks of audio from QLab that came in, and I had 6 wireless microphones. So all of those came in to that list. Per cue, I could pull whichever sounds I wanted to use in that scene and place them on the soundscape window in Elisa. And what's really important to me is that sound is treated as an element used to help tell the story, almost like another character in the play or performance, not simply for flashy effect or to get somebody's attention, but to actually help tell the story. Sometimes people don't even notice the sound, which I see as a compliment if it blends right in. So it's really important to me to have the right tools so I can work in tech rehearsal, because tech rehearsal, you never have enough time to develop things. So I need this hardware and the software to be rock solid and to work with my creative workflow, so I can actually work with the director and the other members of the creative team to actually create the sounds portion of the play. So this approach that L-Acoustics, Elisa control engine takes was that every one of those sounds, 64 plus 6, I had available to me, and you bring them into the, whichever ones you want to use, they're all numbered, and you bring them in and you place them where you want to place them in the space. And then you can see some of them are moving around. I had some birds that would fly by. This was the pre-show. Birds would fly by. We had some music that moved around. Some things were static. Up here, the red line, it would kind of localize to the center dot, but where the line goes out, it means the sound spreads amongst multiple speakers. There was another time you can fire cues on top of cues. Say, for instance, if this was I can't point, but if one of the dots was a wireless microphone, the actor moves across the stage, you write a cue to move the dot as they walk. So it sounds very natural. So it's localized to where they are.
Wait, were you using any tracking system?
So I was about to say, we didn't use tracking because we only had 6 actors, and they did very little movement, and we didn't want that other element to have to deal with, but that's very useful. If you have a lot of movement and you can afford it, you get the trackers, the RF trackers or whatever kind of trackers. You can interface with other people's trackers too, and bring in the 3D data.
Or you can have the operator just follow the actor.
Yeah.
If it's only one or two, you can do it manually as well.
Yeah, so we wrote cues for every move, but they were few and far between. Now the sounds we moved all the time. That was very, very important. In fact, one scene I had 16 tracks of a choir. Each voice was a different track, and I placed them around 20 meters of the curve at that museum wall, and at the end of the song, we had the whole choir together move around the circle, and that directed the audience as to where to go next, because the actor was going to start speaking from the next location. So they really did. They followed the choir. It was really amazing.
How long was the performance?
It was about 35, 40 minutes.
Okay. Repeated throughout the day?
3
or was
nights.
It 3 nights?
Nope,
Okay.
just 3 nights. It was out in the desert. It was a little too hot to do it in the daytime, and there was a lot of lighting effects too. We wanted it to be done at night.
Sure.
So that's the production that's building it. Here's a slide about the pieces parts. If I can make it advance. There we go. Miguel wanted to talk a bit about the interface and control, it's really amazing what you can do with the Elisa engine. And it really was the brains and the center of the whole operation. That's Adrian, he's with L-Acoustics in the UAE, and he was there every night supporting me and all along the process. But linked to that, we had top left, I used my DAW, I work in Motu, Digital Performer. I did that pre-production before I put the cues in QLab and built them. So that linked directly on my laptop to Elisa Studio. And then during the show, we outputted to Logic and did a multi-track recording of all the wirelesses and then a stereo mix down of the music. The main show was played back from QLab. All the MIDI cues, all the OSC cues, and all the sound files were played from QLab. And there is an Elisa plug-in for that gives you a lot of control as well. And that linked over a network cable. And it also received OSC commands, or it would send and receive OSC commands as needed. And then Elisa links to the amplifiers with AVB protocol, which worked out very well. Projection was Resolume Arena, I believe it was, and that was linked with OSC. Lighting was a Grand MA, that was MIDI. It received MIDI commands from Elisa. And the mixing desk was a Digico, and there is a native plug-in from Elisa that we used for that. So it was really, really cool that everything was going in and out all over the network, but to the central hub, which is the Elisa controller.
What kind of infrastructure did you have for audio distribution? Was it Ethernet? Were you doing Milan or AVB? Or
It was Milan AVB, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. Which, the most successful implementation I've ever had of AVB, which
Good.
is good. I had no problems with it.
Nice.
So between the console and the Elisa and the amplifiers was all AVB. Between the QLab and the console was Dante with a bridge to get it to Maddie into the console. So a lot of bits and bytes, but it was interesting. It's fun. Cool. Yeah.
Also, not a huge budget for this production, like a lean team and.
That's
and,
true. It was
yeah.
about, I think our rental budget ended up for sound being 70,000 AED, so that would be $25,000 for everything. So sound-wise, so not a lot. So that's the production end of it. I'll talk a little bit about the use of Elisa Studio, which is basically the same Elisa controller that you can run on your laptop offline. And there's an interface, Elisa processor that you
Correct. The
run?
hardware is called the Elisa processor. Elisa Studio is the standalone software.
So you
they're two
start the
different-
processor on your laptop, and then it emulates the real L-Acoustics processor, the sound vision. So I could work offline without having to have all the stuff. And it, it was sort of low budget design-wise, so I needed all the time I could get. And I did all my cue writing on the flight over there. I had a 14-hour flight, and I was able, with Elisa Studio, to play QLab, 64 channels, into Elisa Studio, bring that out, and I could write all my cues right there without having to have all the other equipment. So it worked out really good. We're hoping that the project will go forward somewhere else, so we're going to try to do some promo material about it. And what I want to do is take Elisa Studio. I love to learn the software. I want to learn how to make spatialized mixes, like binaural, 5.1, Atmos, 7.1, all the different formats that you can do. And I know a lot of producers and mix engineers are using Elisa Studio to do this. I think Apple Music requires a immersive mix if you're going to put music on their platform to sell. A lot of people use Elisa Studio to make that. And I want to learn how to do it. Just another tool in my tool belt that I could have. So that is Elisa Studio.
I'm guessing you kept all the stems and all the tracks of the performance.
Yeah, and we didn't do a multi-track of the show, only the mics, the live elements, because I can reproduce it. I have all the stems, and I can reproduce that however I want to. I just couldn't reproduce the live actors. But the composer and creator was Romanian. Sound designer and composer, a wonderful guy, Callan Topa, and he's part of OISTAT, the organization where I'm chair of sound. And we got to know each other. I went to Romania and we worked on it for a week together. It was a lot of fun. So it was just really a phenomenal experience. And what he wants to come over here if we mix this thing for the video promos. And I know there's this Boulevard Carroll space here in town, which Miguel said I could talk about, where you can come and demo your project or have a demo of Elisa Studio or Elisa in general. It's on the west side. It's a place where manufacturers do demos, bands, I think, rehearse there. They ever
I think some of the SNL performances actually rehearse the day of SNL at the facility. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
But it's a nice room, and feel free to reach out to me or Brad if you're based in New York and want to have any projects they're doing music or sound design. You can actually pre-vis or listen to the stems in Elisa in this room.
Yeah, and I mean, through all of this, L-Acoustics was just fantastic. I mean, we couldn't have done it without them. This was the sound team, and it's really, this organization I'm part of, our motto is, we're bringing the world together through sound, and we really are breaking down walls between countries, crossing borders. That's my sound team. Everybody's from a different country. We had 8 different people from 8 different countries on the sound team, which was amazing, including in the back behind Adrian is Scott Ellis, who is the consultants rep over in the UK, and he was very instrumental. He came over and did a talk back and a little bit of a training on Elisa for us. And second from the right is Callan Topa, the composer and sound designer as well. So that's Transcendent Renaissance. Shall I talk about the second project?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can open it to questions,
then we'll take
if you
some
have any questions.
So, as I said, I'm a AV consultant. I work at theater consulting firms, and we design spaces and experiences. And this is an experience that we designed for Weta Workshop over in China. And this is a shopping mall. It's an atrium of a shopping mall, and they did this animated experience that runs once an hour to bring people into the shopping mall. So down here at this end is a huge 29-meter tall LED wall, which was a waterfall during the off times, and then that's where they displayed their animation. But then there were all these other elements throughout the whole atrium, and the characters would bounce from place to place and tell stories about the province. It was in Hainan. Haikau was a city in Hainan province in China, which is another island south of Macau. And it was phenomenal to be a part of this. We did this, we designed it, and it was built during COVID. And I've never been there. We weren't retained for construction phase because of COVID. So hopefully it's still running and I get to go hear it one of these days. But
how different was this project? Much higher budget, I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, the other one was, what, $25,000. This was, I had just audio, $1 million was my estimate. I don't know what it cost in the end, but it was about $1,000 million worth of just audio. So let me focus on just a couple of the elements so you get an idea. This is the waterfall, we called it, and it's a 29-meter tall LED wall, which I mentioned already. Behind, let me go back, there's a surround. You can see these trees with the lily pads coming out. Behind that are the line arrays. They didn't want to see anything, so it was very well concealed. We worked with them to make sure they could be built around and that they had the right kind of material that the sound would pass through. But you can see up at the top I have 2 X12s, which are not terribly large speakers. It's the same speaker I had at the site in Sharjah, but I used them for localization. And Miguel mentioned localization. It's really important to me that sound, it's got to come from the right place at the right time, and time is distant. So if I get a speaker up there, it doesn't have to be terribly loud, but if you hear it first, you think the sound's coming from there. So a huge 29-meter screen, if a character's up there talking and the sound comes out down there where the arrays are, it's not going to sound right. So those 2 top speakers are just for localization. And then as you come down, there are 4 SIVA subs off to the right there, and then you have the main arrays, 10 aside of Cara 2, and down at the bottom was the sub bass, 2 SB18 loudspeakers. And then back on the second level there, you can see the equipment room was behind the screen. And off to the bottom right here, you can see this is one of the animal figures. We call them tree deer. And that's one of the elements that would interact with the animations on the screen. So within these, there was lots of lights, and of course I had to put some sound to make them sound natural. So we chose the L-Acoustics 5XT, mainly because of size. That's what would fit in there, but you can see here the detail of where we ended up putting this. And this was designed by Apiro Design for Weta Workshop. And Apiro's a theatrical design firm that I used to work for up until May, and I'm now, I took the summer off, and I'll be going somewhere else soon.
Did you have a chance to prototype this before going on location to install the speakers, or Did you
Well,
do a
we were
mock-up?
supposed to, but when COVID hit, it all happened on site. And I've got another presentation. Next year, I'll come and show you that one. They built this, and I didn't know if, because these pictures you can't see any speakers, so I didn't know if they even put the sound in. I thought maybe they did some, Chinese are known for knocking things off and not putting, but they did. They did exactly what we designed with a few substitutions, but it was fine. But we weren't maintained for construction administration phase, so we did not do any of the acceptance testing. But what I was getting to was when the L-Acoustics put me in touch with the people that actually installed it, they gave me pictures of the install. They got locked in the building for 2 weeks. They could not, they were given the foam that they pack computers in. They were given a sheet of that, each person. They had to sleep in the building because one person had contracted COVID and they were afraid everybody else was going to get it. So they'd bring all their meals and they slept on the floor. It was just horrible. I got one picture of the guy in a serious gas mask soldering this stuff. But yeah, so sorry I kind of went off on a tangent. But so that's an example of a semi-permanent install that I was part of, that L-Acoustics was instrumental with. Yeah, so that's me. If anybody wants to contact me, there's my information. I'm happy to help you with anything.
I guess we can open it for questions. I guess to summarize, I think my thought and my message is that try not to leave sound to the last minute. Try to bring people who are driving the creative spec and all the people, and stop working on silos. I've seen a lot of projects that scramble in the last minute because sound was never considered, and then it becomes, the experience does not become as stellar as it could be. So let's open it to questions.
Can I start? Thank you so much. Brad, I'm super curious for both of you. Are there spaces, I think I can speak specifically of New York, that you find are really, really exciting in terms of the flexibility or, the possibilities that are existing within built spaces currently in New York? Do you find that people are making changes and making them better?
I was involved in one, and I really don't know what's happened to it, but it was done during COVID, and at the end of COVID, it was the Chelsea factory. It was Annie Leibovitz photo studio, and they turned it into this really, really high-end performance venue with 2 different rooms that could be combined into one. And they ended up with some funding problems, so they had to close. I think it's still a venue. I don't know if the system's in there, but I had a different manufacturer, but a immersive audio system that was quite good and a pretty decent video system. So that was a great space. The one that you took me to the first time I ever went was the Shed,
Yeah.
which I think does some good stuff. I think they had some noise problems at one time, which I don't know if they've solved that or not, but
Yeah, I think the main hall was not designed to be a concert hall, so the first concert of Bjork was a little bit of a acoustically challenging, let's say.
yeah.
But I think it has. I haven't been back in the main hall, but I know it's reconfigurable. So depending what type of show is being performed, it might perform differently. Yeah.
Another one I just worked in was Signature Theater. Their medium-sized theater. It's a black box that they reconfigured to be an oratorio, almost like a church for, it's a show that's still running now, and it was completely immersive, very similar to the one that I showed here, where the actors move amongst the audience every which way, up, down, behind. The band was split either side of the audience. If you get a chance, go hear that one. It's really good. It's done with another immersive engine, but I was the Oratorio for Living Things, and it runs through the 23rd of this month. And that was done with another spatialization engine, which Elisa does their movement with level changes in level, and there's other algorithms that use delay as well. The one that we chose for Oratorio also makes use of delay, so you can, you delay a sound to make it sound further away, or to move it in a nutshell. Long answer, sorry.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Really impressive. And personally, I came from China, so appreciate your work. It was really a connecting moment. And my question would be, since I am I was a videographer before my career in New York City, so the feeling that I have is always I can start editing when I have a music. And then I guess my question for the Aura project is like, how sound collaborate with like visual team? Like, I guess there is a very creative space for you guys to collaborate. What that process would look like? That's my question.
So, for the one I presented, for?
Or in general.
Okay. Well, for the one I presented, for Transcendent Renaissance, it was an extraordinary experience because the composer was there with us, and it was his project, and he's a sound designer. So he understood the importance of all of this. He understood the importance of being able to control each track as an object, which we used a Lisa controller to move them around. So that really helped. It was a bit of a challenge because all the designers were in different countries. So, you know, most of them were in Romania. I was in New York, and we only had one meeting together in person before we met on site. So that was a bit of a challenge, but it's important. And if you can convince them to, you know, that sound needs to be incorporated, like I said, as a character in the play, not as an afterthought, you know, which the same if you're designing a building. You got to think about the acoustics of the room, because you can put all the speakers in the world. If the walls are super reflective and there's a loud air conditioner, you're never going to understand what's being said. So I think education and, you know, getting in there early enough is important. Miguel, anything?
Yeah, you told me that on that project they turned on the generator and the entire noise floor went up.
I almost
Did you
cried,
move the generator away, or did you have a chance?
I mean, we talked about how important it was, because we're out in the desert. There's no noise. It's just silent. It's all sand. And then they turned on the generator, and I almost cried. I mean, and they were able to throttle it down because it was this huge generator, and they were able to put a barrier up. But something that big making that much noise, you're never going to make it completely silent unless you completely isolate it. So we were never able to get above, because that creates a noise floor. You can never get any quieter than that noise floor. So especially when you're designing a space, that's really important. I mean, I could tell a story about, I went to the Philippines, and I went to this church, mega church, and the sound, a decent or wonderful sound system, I think it was Meyer or something, and but there was this huge blower on the side wall behind a grill that made all this noise, so they had to turn it up super loud, and it was just a horrible experience. And I Googled who designed the space, and the acoustician was the company I used to work for in New York, where I met Lainey at Acoustic Dimension. So I messaged David Kahn and said, "What happened here? Did you all design?" He says, "I will send you a letter that Craig Jansen wrote saying that this space will never work if you put that machine there in that location." And what they were trying to solve it by buying an L-Acoustics PA. They were going to get bigger, better, louder speakers to make, but it was never going to be a good experience because they had to get over that noise floor. So
I think we have time for one more, if anybody has one. No? All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.